Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sarah. I'm a fourth year teacher that just recently moved from first to second grade, and this is a week in my life parent-teacher conference edition. Okay, so I'm just gonna walk y'all through the first things that I do when conferences are coming up. The first thing that I do is I create a sign up genius. This is not sponsored. This is just always what I've used to put all the information that I need for conferences in one spot. I find that it's very user friendly, it's free to use, and it's easy for parents to use as well. When you make an account on Sign Up Genius, and you create your first sign up, you're going to need to give it a title, you're going to need to pick the dates and the time slots available, and then you can customize what information the person that's filling it in has to add. So there are options like to put the name, to put the email, to put the phone number. I just have parents write their name of who's attending the conference, and I have parents put in if they want it to be virtual, in person, or a phone call. In my district, you can have any of those options for conferences, so I let the parents decide. And then I get the link to that and I send it via email. And I send it a couple weeks in advance, and then I send it multiple times. The second thing I do is if parents are not signing up, I will call them. I will pick up the phone, dial their number, and I will just ask, and I'll say, hey, we have conferences coming up. I was wondering if you have 10 to 15 minutes to either meet virtually, in person, or over a phone call to talk about so-and-so. 9 times out of 10, they will say yes and sign up for a time. If I still can't get a hold of a parent and it comes to be conference time and they didn't answer my call, respond to my voicemails or my messages on email, then I just cold call them on the conference day. Our district, or our school specifically, has a very strong desire to have 100% attendance across the board for conferences. And I feel like the spring conferences are really, really important. And we just sent out report cards. So there's so much I want to talk about. So I just call them and I say, hey, do you have a couple minutes? I just want to talk about so-and-so. And typically if I can get a hold of them, we'll just do the conference via phone call like that. The next thing that I do the week of the conference is I send home a reminder in my student mailboxes. So even though I sent them an email this morning on Monday morning saying, hey, just a reminder, Wednesday and Thursday, it's coming up. Those are conferences. I'll send the link again to say if you forget when you signed up, it's down below because they can see all that information still. But this is honestly more for the kids to see. I know that a lot of parents don't check mailboxes and folders, and a lot of parents just look at the link instead of this. But I always like sending something hard copy home in case people don't check their email as often as maybe I do. But also it's good for the kids to see oh wow, my teacher is meeting with my family this week. She gonna talk to them. So that's what I'm doing today. That's really all the conference prep that I have time to do today because it's a Monday and things are always busy on a Monday. But I will check back in with y'all when I have more updates on conferences. All right, guys, it's the end of the school day. The kids just left. Something that I did during my plan period today, I didn't have a lot of time during that portion of my day to plan for parent-teacher conferences, but honestly, we're supposed to have a snow day tomorrow, possibly. The town I work in, the school right next to us already canceled, so I'm we'll see. But anyway, the thing that I do, I look at my schedule of my conferences and I write down each kid in the order that the conference is going to happen, and I make a Google Doc showing each kid's name. That's where I start. And then underneath, I decide what I'm going to say about each kid in the order I'm going to say it. Now, the reason I do this, a lot of teachers I work with, they're I just wing it. I don't wing it because a lot of my parents require interpretation, just because I have so many different families that speak a different language at home. They require an interpreter to be present, so I have to have my spiel ready to go. So underneath, I don't have a lot prepared because it's only 15 minutes and I like to save time at the end for parents to ask me questions. So I try and have 5 to 7 minutes of my spiel ready to go, and then time for them afterwards to ask me things. So here's the list of things that I made underneath each child. I can't show it to you because they have their names in it, but basically it'll say if my child's name is Steve, I write their name up there, and then underneath I wrote iReady math data, iReady reading data, and then we also use Dibbles. I don't find that parents really care too much about all the different subtests, but I do like to talk about oral reading fluency because that talks about how accurate they're reading and how fast they're reading. So I talk about the iReady reading data and the oral reading fluency. And then I talk about writing because writing isn't part of the iReady data. So I talk about how their writing is going. I don't really talk about science and social studies because parents don't really ever seem to ask about that stuff. And then I write a social glow, so something they're doing really well in the class socially, something that they're still working on, something that they're doing academically that's going really well, and then something academically that they're working on. So that's it. So underneath each kid, I have that listed. And then tomorrow during my snow day, if we don't have a snow day tomorrow, I'm just gonna do it during my prep or before school. I'm going to make a list of all of that information for each kid and we'll go from there. I'm back. It is now Wednesday. So we did have a snow day unfortunately yesterday, which just means everything got pushed. I typically don't like to do work outside of my contract hours, but because we didn't have school yesterday and today conferences start, I needed to get all my notes finished. So yesterday I spent some time just going through those notes that I explained to y'all, talking about their iReady reading, their iReady math, their spelling, their writing, a social grow and glow, and then an academic glow and grow. So I printed those out this morning when I got to school. And I have a hard copy of them all here. I just like to be able to read off of it. If it's an in-person conference or a phone call conference, then I can just very easily read them off of my computer. But I also like to have them printed out hard copy. And it's nice because when I have a virtual one, I like to look at them instead of having a tab open and reading off my notes. So first thing I did today to prep was to print off my notes. I also printed off a schedule and just posted that outside my door so that when teachers are walking past, they know if I'm meeting with somebody or not in here. And for parents, if they're outside waiting, if they're waiting for their in-person conference, they can check the time to make sure that's correct and then see if there's anybody before them or after them, just to be conscious of like timing. I also send my schedule to all the support staff that work with my students so that if they want to pop in and join a conference, they can. And then I updated my notes this morning because there was a couple support people that can't make it to the conference. So I just added things that they wanted me to say on their behalf. I have 30 minutes until my first conference starts, and honestly, out of the 10 that I have today, looks like 4 are on Zoom, 5 are a phone call, and 1 is in person. So super sad. I really wish more parents opted to coming in person, but I know that their schedules are crazy and that to find childcare or to bring their kids here is just, you know, an extra element. So I understand and I sympathize. If a meeting is in person, I'll go sit at the teacher table so that there's space for whoever is here to sit. But because most of these conferences are virtual or over the phone, I usually just camp out at my desk. For in-person conferences, I do like to have work samples available to show parents what their child is working on and what they're able to do. But like I said, I only have 1 today and I only have 1 tomorrow because I was supposed to have 2, but somebody asked to go to virtual. A little conference tip, I always keep a notepad handy so that if parents have a question about something I don't know, I can make a note of it and ask the right person. And I always keep a notepad handy in case parents ask me for something that I need to send home. Like a lot of the time parents will ask for their QR code so that they can work on things at home. So I will make note of which parents want that so that I can send them home the next day. Another fact is that I typically give parents 5 minutes, and if they're late to the conference, either virtually or in person, then I will just call. It's kind of my like go-to rule. But I only have 20 minutes, so I'm gonna quickly go to the bathroom, fill up my water, and quickly eat my lunch. I don't really have any breaks, so I have conferences. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row, and then I have like a little 30-minute break, and then I have 4 more. I have a little break, but it's not until 2 o'clock, and I can't wait till 2 o'clock to eat. So, all right, guys, it is actually Thursday afternoon. I just wrapped up my final 8 conferences. So exciting. That's it for the year. We have them in the fall and we have them in the spring, and that's it. So just some last minute advice for y'all before I go, because I didn't really show you anything about the conferences today. I just showed you how I prepped for them and kind of how I set up for them on Wednesday. And then today I did things very similarly. I didn't have any in-person conferences today, so they were all virtual or phone call. I had some interpreters today. I had other educators collaborating with me on these calls, so special ed, interventionists, EL support, literally everybody. Sometimes there was like up to 4 people in a conference, so it was jam-packed. But just some tips for people if you have never had to do parent-teacher conferences, or maybe this is your first year and you've done them and you just didn't feel good about it. Here are some tips. Tip number 1, be prepared. I think it comes off a lot more professional if you have something prepared. You feel more confident and they feel more confident in you. Second thing is to always thank families for the work they're doing at home, just to make sure that you're saying, you know, thank you for your home support. Thank you for working with me this year. It's been a joy to get to know you this year and your child, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing for them. I also like to give credit where credit's due. So if I notice a child's been doing better on their spelling and the parents have been practicing at home with them, I tell them that they should feel like they had a part in that, because they absolutely did. So to feel proud of their child for accomplishing these new things and for, gaining knowledge, but also should be proud of themselves for putting in that work to help their child's education. Always give credit where credit is due, because while we do so much as teachers, parents are also doing so much at home behind the scenes. I always like to end conferences with, is there anything else I can do to support you or your child, or is there anything you need from me or any questions? I always try and leave time to save those kinds of things at the end. Number 4, it's okay to not know the answer. If they ask something and you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, I need to look into that. Can I get back to you? Especially for me, who's a brand new teacher at this school, that happens quite frequently. So it's okay to not know and to say, I'm gonna need some time. Can I get back to you on that? And tip number 5 is probably pretty self-explanatory, but make sure that you're throwing in some good there, because I can't even imagine, even though I'm not a parent, what it's like to hear all those hard things about how a child's doing academically and socially. Make sure you say something positive. Some things that I said this time around that I feel like really gravitated towards parents were things like, their smile brightens up a room. I'm gonna be so sad to see them go this year. I'm gonna miss them so much. I can tell so-and-so really enjoys being at school and they're always happy here. Always have something positive to share with parents, because those hard conversations, you're thinking to yourself that it's hard for you to deliver all this. Imagine how hard it is for those parents to then receive that information. So always be prepared. Thank parents and give credit where credit is due. Always save time to ask parents if they have questions or if they need anything from you, or if you can provide them with anything. It is okay to get back to parents and say that you don't know the answer to that. And always make sure you're sprinkling in some positivity. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on my other socials. Love you guys.